good afternoon. It's a nice day. It's a wonderful day to celebrate National Arbor Day, and I thank everybody for coming out. Today's also a special day to recognize a couple, three in fact, Urbana Rotary, Warren Lavey, and Dr. Holly Rosencranz, partners with us on tree planting this year. So it's a very special day. I'm Mike Brunk. I'm the Urbana City Arborist, and part of my job is to help protect the urban environment, specifically the trees, and they're a substantial part of our community. In fact, they're the only component of our urban infrastructure that increases in value over years. So it's a great investment, trees. Unfortunately, recently we've had devastation. Now, Urbana's been a tree city. Let me back up and say Urbana's been a Tree City USA. This will be going on our 43rd year, I believe, since the mid-70s. And the program, the forestry program in Urbana, was started because of basically the Dutch elm disease wiping out the American elms in our community. And tree planting was happening after that problem, even before the forestry program, because citizens wanted trees. But citizens got together and said, hey, we need some guidance on what's going back in so we don't have this problem again. And the very first arborists started putting us down the right path and diversifying our forests so we could be prepared for problems in the future. And in fact, we're in pretty good shape considering the emerald ash borer hits so fast compared to many communities that we had a diverse forest and we weren't hit as hard as others. But we are now in a situation where we need help in tree planting. Our forest has lost 500 trees in just the last 3 years due to emerald ash borer, but we're averaging, even without the emerald ash borer, about 100 trees a year in removal. If we're averaging then on top of that planting 150 trees, we're only gaining about 50 trees a year. And recently looking at our backlog in the inventory, we had something like 464 stumps. We had still 171 trees on the inventory targeted for removal, so that put us at about 600 and some odd trees for future tree planting spaces, which at our present rate was going to be about 12.7 years a backlog. Now, why is that important to get our forest recanopied soon? Well, we want to be prepared. We want to have a vigorous forest for the next time we go into something, because it's going to happen. And diversity is certainly one defense for that, but having a vigorous and a multi-aged forest is another defense. So we're at 12.7 year backlog in tree planting to get caught up, and we look to ways to speed that up. Well, we were fortunate enough to get a $15,000 grant. They're out there sometimes they're not, but we got a $15,000 grant for tree planting. That added 125 trees. Now we're down to 10 years in a matter of several months. Then International Rotary came out with the charge to plant trees. They're important. So we're not the only community that's suffering from tree loss. And the local Rotary had me come and talk to them because they're interested in this and they wanted to participate. And so I presented to them our situation of having, I believe I presented back in studies of Urbana back in 1932. There was an estimated 17,000 trees in the community, city parkway trees. After that loss, that dropped to about 8,000. They were able to build that up close to about 11,500, started declining again. And Rotary said to me, we want to help. We were interested in tree planting. Well, naturally, not more than a week later, Warren contacts me and says, hey, you know, a friend of mine, it was Celeste Hoyle, said I should talk to you about tree planting. I'm interested in tree planting and working with the city. And it just happened that Warren and then Dr. Holly Rosencranz were able to team up with Rotary and said, we'll match you guys whatever you raise up to a certain level. And I'll be darned if we didn't max out, and they got the match. And we ended up with $10,200 for 85 new trees this spring. So I'd like to certainly everybody give a hand. Now we are all of a sudden down to 8.7 years of backlog. In a matter of months, we went from almost 13 years to 8.7 years in backlog. Now, so I don't think we're going to be 8 years to get these trees back in our parkway, and it's all because of the community, all because of you. So others that may be interested in the cooperative tree planting program can contact me. We're going to be putting information on the website, and we'll have nice brochures to hand out, and hopefully we can get through our tree planting efforts here in short order. Now it's my pleasure to introduce the mayor, who's a strong supporter of Urbana trees, whose leadership is making this program and so many others possible. Mayor Diane Marlin.
Thanks, Mike. Welcome everyone today. So today we're celebrating Arbor Day. This morning I was at an Arbor Day ceremony at Thomas Paine School, and the best quote of the day was when a little boy asked, "Don't you think it's weird that people hug trees?" And I said, no, you always hug what you love, and so it's okay to hug a tree, especially on Arbor Day. So we're celebrating Arbor Day, we're celebrating our urban forest, and most importantly, the generosity of the Urbana Rotary Club and Dr. Holly Rosencranz and Warren Lavey. But I'd also like to recognize the City Arbor employees who keep our trees healthy and pruned and our public rights-of-way blooming. So you can usually find them because they're wearing day-glow green clothing in all sorts of forms. But wave, guys. It's Kevin and Mike and Bruce and Kale, Tracy, Warren, and I think there's another person there who I don't know his name, and then Director of Public Works, Bill Gray. These are the people day in and day out who take care of the forest canopy that we have in Urbana. But let's talk about trees. City of Urbana has about 250 employees and roughly 14,700 city and park trees. Those are public trees. That's part of our public infrastructure. Every one of those trees is working for us day in and day out. They're city workers too. They conserve energy, they absorb gaseous pollutants, they absorb stormwater runoff to reduce runoff that goes into our rivers and streams. They're leafy workers. They sequester carbon dioxide as they grow to help reduce greenhouse gases. They reduce soil erosion, they release oxygen, and they moderate the temperature around our homes. And they shade our yards, which is why we love hostas in Urbana, and woodland wildflowers. They also increase curb appeal, and they contribute to property values. And you can go to any neighborhood in Urbana and see what these trees do for our neighborhoods. So in short, they're a critical part of our community's infrastructure. As Mike noted, in recent years, we've lost hundreds of ash trees to the emerald ash borer. We need to replace those trees, as well as the other trees that are typically lost to old age, damage, and disease. I salute the vision of Rotary International president who set the goal of planting a tree for every Rotarian in the world, and that's over 1 million people. I think it's around 1.2 million trees if they reach the goal. So think of the impact the vision of this one person is going to have, and we see it right here in our community. And we also thank the generosity of the Urbana Rotary Club, of which I'm a proud member and past president, and again, Dr. Rosencranz and Warren Lavey. So I encourage other members of the community to follow their lead and consider donating a tree. It truly is a gift that will live for decades. And I'm going to dedicate myself for the next few years to encouraging everywhere I go to mentioning the opportunity to plant a tree and encouraging our residents and non-residents to help restore and maintain our urban canopy. It's now my pleasure to introduce Bob Rasmus, President of Urbana Rotary. Thank you.
I was looking at Mike's notes on how we ought to present. I got 1 to 2 minutes, but I think you forgot what I do for a living. I'm Bob Rasmus. I'm the president of the Urbana Rotary, and I'm privileged to be a part of this ceremony today. As Diane said, Rotary International has committed to planting a tree per Rotarian It's been in my experience that the Rotary always exceeds its goals, so I expect that that number will be higher when this whole project is over. This was an effort by the international president, Ian Riesling, who said, we are global, let's make a global impact. Let's do our part for mitigating the effects of global warming and contribute to our communities. That's what Rotary does. And so I'm really proud to be here. We don't pull this off ever on our own. So we're so thankful for Dr. Holly Rosencranz and Warren Lavey for matching these funds. These kind of community partnerships is how we make differences and multiply our ministry or our mission and accomplish the kind of things we need to accomplish. So I am grateful to be a part of this. I'm grateful that that we formed this partnership. Here's some news. Mike Brunk's about as good of an arborist as you'll ever find, but Mike Brunk can't save the world. And Warren Lavey and Dr. Holly Rosencranz are committed citizens of this community and love this community, but they're not going to save the world. And Rotary International, for its global stamp and its broad vision, will not save the world. But when we get together and do these kind of things, I kind of like our chances. So thank you for us being a part of this.
Now I'd like to hear from Warren and Holly.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody. It's such a privilege to be here, and we're married. That's why we're definitely connected. And Warren's really inspired so much of my own interest and love for the planet and planetary health, and I'm so proud to be here. I wanted you to know I fell in love with this community as a college student in the 1970s, and in 1976, when I was an undergraduate here, Urbana became designated as a tree city. So 42 years later, I can't tell you how proud I am to live and work here, and that's partly because the education I got here in Urbana spurred me onto a wonderful personal and professional career. So I can't think of a better way to give back to the community than with our shared passion for climate and planetary health, but to plant these trees. I'm just honored to do so. I'll share one other personal story with you. So my father graduated from Illinois in 1948 and had a wonderful electrical engineering career. I asked him, when he became ill, I asked him to move back here in 2014 when he was he just passed away earlier in the month. When he came to Urbana, he said it was like starting a whole new life. I can't think of I think the mayor mentioned how a tree lives on forever, and I just can't imagine a better way than to honor my father's memory than by this Arbor Day and planting trees. So I would like to dedicate these trees in honor of my father. So thank you very much for that opportunity.
I'm Warren Lavey. I'm very pleased to be part of this great city citizen partnership, and I want to thank Mike Burke and the Urbana Rotary for being such great partners for us, in getting these trees planted. I spend a lot of time thinking and writing about environmental policy, environmental law, and worrying about the effects of climate change. But it's wonderful to actually get involved in actions that, as Rotary said, will, together with other actions, together with all of our commitments, actually start to make a change in the right direction. So, looking out on these trees, it's very gratifying. I've been involved in kind of planting trees, since I was in Sunday school. They made it, something as an activity, and we've contributed to biodiversity and tree planting projects in, various places around the world, and it's wonderful to, be able to contribute here in our community. So thank you again to Urbana.